Town Council, Monday, November 19th, 2 o'clock p.m. in Council Chambers. First item up would be the adoption of some previous minutes, Committee of the Whole minutes from November the 5th, and regular open minutes from November the 5th. Any input or changes to those? Hearing none, they'll be adopted by consensus. Business arising from prior minutes. There was business arising, and this would be coming forward from the closed meeting earlier this morning, November the 19th. Motion in camera 608/12, moved by Councillor Ryan and seconded by Councillor Rhodes. Resolved that Council approve in principle awarding a one-year license to occupy Gyro Beach to Osoyoos Water Sports at a yearly rate of $4,100 for the term of May 15th to September the 30th, 2013, with a one-year renewal, and that staff negotiate with Osoyoos Water Sports to scale their proposal in terms of compatibility of activities, and that the hours of operation be confirmed. Could I have a motion to receive that, please? Councillor Rhodes, Ryan, all in favor? That has been received. Going back on the agenda, was there any late items that are coming forward? Hearing none, the agenda will be as it is printed, and that will be adopted by consensus. Next item up is delegations, and we have a delegation this afternoon from the Desert Valley Hospice Society, presentation by Janet Shaw, along with Lois Brummet. Oh, I don't know if it's a team or not today. Ms. Shaw, please.
Well, good afternoon, Mayor Wells, members of council, staff, and of course our viewing audience. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today to speak on behalf of the Desert Valley Hospice Society. I would like to reintroduce both Lois Brummet and Ted Cron-Miller, who are both members of the Society and community members of the town of Osoyoos. Lois has served for the last several years as the Vice President of our Hospice Society, and she has stepped down from those duties and agreed to provide a contract to the Hospice Society as our first ever Hospice Program Director and volunteer educator and mentor. So it's a big, long title, but Lois has great expertise in nursing and in particular in hospice palliative care, so she brings a lot to the Society. And Ted, I know, has had experience in council chambers, and we're very pleased that he stepped forward as a member of the community of Osoyoos to come on board with the Society. Many of you will have heard of the Society, and most of you will connect Desert Valley Hospice with our efforts fundraising to build a freestanding hospice house. But I want you to know that the Society is more than just raising funds for freestanding hospice, and hospice palliative and end-of-life care is more than just a building. It's a philosophy of care. I'm here today to share with you our strategic future, how we got started, where we are now, and where we want to go as a society. The presentation, including questions, I promise I'll be finished within 20 minutes. And we have circulated an attendance sheet and feedback sheet, and the intention of that was to help us improve our presentations as we go throughout the communities and meet with various stakeholder groups, and also to help us better understand community needs and knowledge around hospice palliative care. I'm going to give you first a very brief overview of the philosophy of hospice palliative and end-of-life care, and then I'm going to spend a few more minutes focused on the status of the Hospice Society today. And I'm not sure if our mouse is going to work from this distance. Oh, there we go. So to get started, let's talk about death. I'm sure everybody is going to perk up when you hear those terms. And maybe what I should say is let's talk about death, or perhaps I should start by saying why we don't talk about death. Why has dying become so isolated from our daily life? It seems to me, and through research, our elders rarely die at home. We have very high expectations of health and life. We depend utterly on experts during illness. Our society places a very high emphasis on material values, and there is a current crisis in spiritual direction. Most adults have never seen anyone die at home, and this is one reason why death appears to be something foreign to us all. Most of us have little direct experience with death, and consequently we are unfamiliar and uncomfortable with what is the inevitable final part of life. Did you know that less than 10% of the population dies suddenly, and most experts believe it is as low as 4%? Most deaths occur as a result of end-stage and/or chronic health conditions. Although most deaths are therefore expected, it is still the case that around 60% of British Columbians die in hospital. We know that a large majority of the population would prefer to spend their final days at home in familiar surroundings with their families and friends around them. We also know that many of the people who currently die in hospital could, with appropriate preparation and support, die at home. This includes people whose home in their final months or years is a residential care facility. For those who cannot or do not wish to die in their own home, these people could die in the more peaceful surroundings of a hospice rather than in an acute care hospital. As our population ages, the need for and access to quality end-of-life care is a critical priority. By combining the improvements made over the last 20 years in clinical palliative care with services to support people's social, psychological, and spiritual needs, society has the means to deliver a high standard of end-of-life care. By advocating for excellence in the delivery of end-of-life care, our society believes anyone facing a life-limiting illness and their families can experience the best quality of life during the transition to death. This schematic drawing illustrates the phases of care from diagnosis to death to bereavement and the involvement of the individual, the families, and the care providers. Curative care focuses on helping someone recover from an illness by providing active treatment. Hospice palliative care focuses on providing comfort and reducing symptoms and distress. And bereavement care is an important part of the hospice palliative care, and it should be available to those experiencing loss for as long as there is need. Hospice palliative care helps patients and their families to address physical, psychological, social, spiritual, and practical issues and their associated expectations, needs, hopes, and fears. It helps to prepare for and manage self-determined life closure and the dying process. It helps to cope with loss and grief during illness and bereavement. The term end-of-life care is a more recent and literal term. It has been adopted to make it clear that a person dying from any cause other than a sudden and unexpected one might benefit from the services typically provided through palliative hospice care. The terms hospice and palliative care in practice have often been associated primarily with diseases such as cancer. End-of-life care usually focuses on the needs of anyone diagnosed with a life-limiting illness. The use of end-of-life care means an intention to offer specialized holistic services to a wider group of people approaching the transition to death. In many instances, these terms are used interchangeably. The focus of hospice palliative care, it recognizes that dying is as a normal part of living. The focus is on caring and not curing, and on life, not death. The goal is to reduce symptoms and distress and provide comfort and support. It neither hastens nor postpones death. It is for the person and for family members and friends, helping them care for their loved one and for themselves during times of grief. It uses a team approach to care and is only provided when the person and family are prepared to accept it. It should be provided in any setting where people die, including at home, in hospices, in hospitals, in long-term and chronic care facilities, in shelters, and even in prisons. The decision to start hospice palliative care is made by the person and family in conjunction with the care team. So I've just spent a few minutes just giving you a very quick snapshot of hospice palliative care, and now I just want to turn our attentions to letting you know more about our hospice society. Desert Valley Hospice was incorporated in 2005 for purposes set out in our Constitution and bylaws, and the purposes as currently stated in our Constitution are there to share with you. The Society serves both the communities of Oliver and Osoyoos. We received charitable status in 2007 and was given permission to accumulate funds until 2017 under Canada Revenue Agency. And since our inception, the Society has focused on raising donations for freestanding hospice residents and on promoting public awareness of issues related to end-of-life care. In 2010, the Society began a strategic planning process. In 2011, and building on the initial strategic action plan, the Hospice Society commissioned an assessment end-of-life care South Okanagan in the communities of Oliver and Osoyoos. Major findings of the assessment report identified service deficits in the provision of hospice, palliative, and end-of-life care in this area. I've shared with you in a very condensed form the needs assessment major findings. They're summarized on this slide, and I think it's very important to note that the findings were accepted without qualification by Interior Health. And we felt as a society that we had taken responsibility for actually determining the status of hospice palliative care in the region, and we went ahead and did that work despite some other health authorities feeling that that's the type of work that they would traditionally do themselves. I can state that progress has been made rectifying some of the service deficits that were identified in the report, and if time permits and if you're interested, I can speak to the efforts underway to help rectify the service deficits. In February of 2012, our 3-year strategic plan was completed. Our strategic plan has identified 7 key objectives that are grouped into 4 distinct categories, and these all address the service deficits found in the needs assessment. The amount of work to be done represents a very significant challenge to the hospice society, and our overarching goal is to ensure the provision of high quality, timely, and accessible end-of-life care services for individuals at end of life and their families. Much has been communicated in our communities about raising funds for a hospice house, and before we could get going on that project, we really needed to take a snapshot of where we were at and where we had to go as a hospice society. And I just want to share with you what we feel are some of the key components of generating all of the key decisions that would have to be made in order to actually have a hospice facility and be able to operate and manage it as a society. So that's where we are right now in those significant steps to actually opening doors to clients in a hospice house. We know that to create a standalone hospice, we need to develop a business case that would demonstrate the ongoing sustainability of our society to manage and operate such a facility. Precedence has been set throughout the Interior Health Service area that they have provided operating funds for all the hospice homes that currently provide care. Kamloops, Vernon, Kelowna, and Penticton all are funded by Interior Health to operate their actual beds. There are different models of funding in place in each of those hospice homes, but they all receive significant funding for operations. We also know that based on some preliminary numbers shared with us by a hospice society in the Interior Health Service area, that their costs are approximately $375 per bed per day to operate. So we know just in rough estimates that to operate a 6-bed house would cost approximately $800,000 per year. We also know that it's significantly less than providing care in acute care hospitals for people that are at end of life. Unfortunately, at this time, we have no indication that Interior Health is willing to continue any discussions around funding a hospice house in this area. And until such time as we can get some positive feedback from Interior Health, as a society, we are reluctant to proceed with preparing a comprehensive and very costly business case to get us to the next step. So right now, we really believe it's a matter of timing, and we have to make sure our timing is right when we engage Interior Health and our community stakeholders in the next steps to providing more beds. So I mentioned earlier that our 7 key objectives have been grouped into 4 themes: governance, hospice volunteer programs, public awareness and fundraising, and our advocacy work. I'm really pleased to be able to say that tonight at our annual general meeting, we have 9 willing directors, 2 of which are from the community of Osoyoos. We're hoping as we mature as a society that we'll have equal representation from both communities, and I really hope that in the very near future that we will be able to have alternating individuals from Oliver and Osoyoos to serve as the president. The society works for both communities, but I know that we've been fairly Oliver-centric in the last few years, and as a society, we're anticipating doing a better job in Osoyoos getting our message out and engaging the community of Osoyoos. Our hospice volunteer programs, Lois Brummet, as I mentioned, has been hired to act as program director and educator for the society. She recently completed our first ever training program for hospice volunteers, and we have 8 new fully trained hospice volunteers to add to the cohort of approximately 13, which gives us about 20 active hospice volunteers in both communities. We're underway with developing a new program called Tuck-In. This is a program to help make sure patients, clients that are receiving care in the home or in residential care facilities, that any of the needs that they may have over the weekend have been addressed before the weekend, so people don't get into crisis when we don't have the same level of care being provided on weekend. Of course, we've also just finished a communications plan under the leadership of Graham Jenkinson, who's an active member of our society, and all of the communication tools that are being developed within this communication plan is to help us meet our strategic objectives. So our PowerPoint presentation was certainly not done by me, who has trouble just doing the basic computer work. So we do have some very critical players within our society that helps us do all of our work. And I'd be remiss to say tonight that under our fundraising efforts, our annual celebration of Caring Hands Wine and Cheese and Silent Auction is taking place this Saturday, November 24th at the Catholic Church Hall in Oliver. It's a change of venue, and very much appreciate Mayor Wells for his leadership and his upcoming attendance representing the town of Osoyoos. So thank you to our mayor, and certainly extend a warm welcome to all of you as well to join us. Our advocacy work, we continue to work with Interior Health around things like advanced care planning, and I've shared with you a pamphlet about my voice. If we're going to experience a good end when our time comes, things like starting the discussion about how you want your end of life to be is a great starting point. And also our hospice volunteers are being better utilized and valued as an integral part of our hospice palliative care team. So who are our stakeholders? Of course, the client and their family, our government, so our National Hospice Palliative Care Association and our provincial. We have to have a good working relationship with the media to share our message. Governments for their policy. Interior Health holds the money and engages and hires all the care providers, so we work closely with them. The Hospice Society, we believe, is representative of the public interest around this movement, and the work that they do is valuable to moving our agenda forward. And of course, community groups, our donors, sponsors, and supporters make all of this happen. And most importantly, what do our hospice volunteers actually do? I've shared with you a summary of all of what we believe are the important components of our volunteer program. And it's important to recognize they participate in team and case management meetings. They're valued as an integral part of delivering hospice palliative care, and we know that from feedback, our families value most the opportunity to take a break from the demands of caring for their loved one, the emotional support, the time spent by our volunteers, and the information and advocacy work that the society does and the volunteers share with our clients. So if you want to access our services, Kimberly Hutton, who's the volunteer coordinator at South Okanagan General Hospital, is the first point of access to all of the services. Lois Brummet is also a person to contact if you know anyone who needs the support of the Hospice Society. And I've mentioned what our hospice volunteers and fundraisers do. Our members providing specific skills, technical expertise, and administrative assistance is critical. Our donors are enormous. Here's just a quick overview of some of the donors that we've had this year. We're very proud of the relationship we have with the Oliver Rotary Club and partnering at their annual Spring Gala, and we've been recipients of their funds for the last 3 years. Shoppers Drug Mart, through their Tree of Life campaign, we've been recipient from both Shoppers and Oliver and Soyuz. We've greatly valued their support. Interior Savings has come on board as a sponsor of our annual Hike for Hospice. I can't say enough about the wine industry and their generosity donating their products for our auction. They have really stepped up to the plate, and there are many, many organizations and individuals who have generously supported the work of the Hospice Society, and we're extremely grateful. We have approximately 123 society members. We have a few that are a little remiss in getting their membership renewed this fall, so we'll do a little more work getting those memberships renewed, and we hope to continue to maintain and build on our membership base. It's important work. And I want to share with you some final thoughts from a report that was released last fall called Not to be Forgotten. It was an all-parliamentary committee, and I think these statements are really, really important to learn. Less than 30% of Canadians receive palliative care when they need it. End-of-life palliative care should not be dependent on where you live. It shouldn't matter whether you live in a rural or urban area or whether you live in one province or another in Canada. We should all have access to the same level of care. And we know that hospice palliative care can be delivered in all different physical settings, and including community hospices are a very important service to provide. And rural people want to stay at home. We know that we can have access to Moog House in Penticton, but I think for most of us, especially in the latter years of life, leaving our community to travel for care is not what we want to do. And our hospice volunteers donate countless hours providing compassionate, supportive care to people at end of life, and they need to be recognized for the generous spirit and the loving hands that they share with those that are leaving this world. So I want to express a very big appreciation to the Council of Osoyoos. You're my first official government presentation, so I thank you for your patience and allowing me a little extra time to share the message of the Hospice Society, and I'm more than happy, if time permits, to answer any questions. Otherwise, I'll just express my appreciation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I'm sure there'll be a couple of questions. I really started understanding the value of hospice care. I had a childless aunt and uncle in Penticton, and they both were sort of going through the passing at about the same time, and they just got so much comfort out of the fact that they could go to Moog House and have a place to go, and it was incredible to see that functioning and that service being provided to this dying couple. It was pretty incredible. So at that, you start understanding the value of hospice, and I know I always try to support it. Haven't been to the wine and cheese for a while, but I'm going this year.
Thank you.
And I certainly do that spring walk.
You do.
So if we can support it as much as we can, and if the people of Osoyoos, I think it's a little bit new to the people of Osoyoos, but if we can start promoting that and getting that coming forward, it's certainly a very, very worthwhile service. So thank you for coming to council and spreading that word to the town people of Osoyoos. And I'll open this up to council for any further questions or comments. Or Councillor Ryan.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, yes, thank you for your presentation, and I'm happy to see that you are expanding and you're growing, and even I think it's maybe the second year now that we've had the helping hands that we could support via Shoppers Drug Mart here locally. So it's wonderful. I wish you well. And I hope that you do get those 5 or 6 beds. Are those still pending, or are those more or less already available to you that you mentioned?
No, they're definitely pending. We know from our needs assessment that currently we need 6 hospice beds, and how they're configured, whether it's 6 beds in a standalone facility, or if they're part of another facility, or if they're clustered among, between the 2 communities. We haven't determined that. We know that there is an opportunity to do something around 6 beds. We know we'll need 10 beds in 15 years. So I would be offering false hope if you were to think that it's going to happen in the next few months. This is going to take several years and a lot of community engagement, and I'm sure I'll be calling on the mayor and council for letters of support as we try and move this agenda forward. And as I mentioned earlier, timing is really critical. You know that the health authorities, their fiscal year ends at the end of March, so their funds are committed, and you know, their bottom line is cost constraints. So when you start transferring money from one area of healthcare to another, often that doesn't mean it's the same amount of money spent. It just opens up opportunities for more access somewhere else. So, you know, I think we're all aware of the fiscal reality, but that shouldn't dampen our enthusiasm or our wish to do what we feel is right for our community. So we'll continue to work on it, but we also have to be respectful that we can't raise the money ourselves, and we will need Interior Health as a willing partner to help us get where we need to go with providing beds. We do have what are called 2 hospice palliative care beds in the hospital in South Okanagan General. They're actually not dedicated hospice beds, and they haven't been configured strictly for hospice beds, so we don't even have the data on the admissions to those beds and whether or not they're actually for end-of-life care or if they're acute admissions. So it's an area we're working on with care providers within the hospital and certainly with managers. And we're hoping this year that we'll get a different picture of when are people at end of life and where is the appropriate care when and where is it given. So we need to get more information for sure.
Good. We've got a good plan outlined, and that's an important first start.
Thank you. And I really want to express our thanks to the business community of Osoyoos. Even though we don't have the same profile in Osoyoos as Oliver, they have very generously given to support all of our causes, and we're really hoping that maybe next year we will do our wine and cheese fundraiser in Osoyoos and keep the hike in Oliver, and then sort of share the fundraising load amongst the communities and feel like we're working together.
Oh, that's probably be a positive approach to it. Any other questions from council? Because I have one. I think it would be a blatant oversight if I didn't ask. And when we look at the facilities in the town of Osoyoos has 2 facilities that I can think, one of them being Sagebrush Lodge, that already has the rooms and washrooms and kitchens and all those things required to do hospice. And following up on your statement of it really shouldn't matter whether you're rural or urban, it seems strange that wouldn't be moved forward by Interior Health or the provincial government and start utilizing I think it's about half empty, the old Sagebrush Lodge building, and it would be a wonderful place. It's got gardens, ponds, turtles floating in the pond. What a great place for that type of use.
Yeah, and I've toured both of the facilities that you're referring to, and I think there are opportunities. And I just have to reemphasize that to develop the type of business case that would convince Interior Health that we're deserving of the funds to operate a freestanding hospice, we would have to do a very comprehensive business case that would take considerable time and, most importantly, money. And I'm reluctant to commit the funds raised that are currently held by the Hospice Society until we get some warm, fuzzy feelings from Interior Health that that's a good decision and the timing is right. So as a society, we can't get out ahead of Interior Health. We have to work with them, and we have to respect their own strategic planning. But I can quote to you strategic Interior Health's own strategic document references that Interior Health will support individuals and families through their end-of-life experience with accessible, responsive, quality care in appropriate settings surrounded by those they value most. So I think that statement really fits very much with the philosophy of the Desert Valley Hospice Society, and we will continue to work with Interior Health and, as I said, engage our stakeholders and work to move the agenda forward and take opportunities such as exist in Osoyoos to see if we can't provide those beds. So I know I didn't really directly answer your question, but I've spoken to it, and you know, it's on our radar, and I'm an impatient person in some ways. I'd like to see things done now and not tomorrow, but I'm learning patience in this endeavor, and we'll continue to work very hard towards that.
Is there, you know, you presented to council today, is there a role of council in this? Is this is anything that can be expedited politically?
Yep. I will be writing you and asking you for a letter of support. I've just got a couple of pieces that I have to confirm timing-wise and meeting-wise, and then I will certainly be sending a letter to council asking for your support to basically help facilitate the work of the Hospice Society now and in the future. So if that's reasonable to send a letter.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Okay, anything further from council? Well, thank you very much. Thanks Lois Brummet for coming, and ex-councillor Ted Cronmiller is a part of the Osoyoos team, and he had to exit, but he was here in support. So thanks for coming out and bringing us that message.
Thank you again to everybody. Thank you.
Okay, that would move us into some water issues on council and district accounts in the amount of $39,936.26 for approval. Councillor Morera Laranjo. Any discussion on that? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried. Correspondence, none. Bylaws. Under business, council meeting reports for Councillor McCordoff. This is for when councillors are attending out of town. There's both a full day and a half day. Councillor McCordoff is on the Okanagan Regional Library Board. Been very busy lately as they've been hiring a new chief administrative officer, Canada-wide search and shortlisting and things like that. So there's 3 meetings that she attended in Kelowna and has put in a writ for. We're looking for payment of that. Councillor Ryan Plant. Discussion, hearing none. All in favor. That will be done. There's a report here on the extension of a development permit 0907 for the Oasis Medical commercial building. Mr. Shannon, please. I'll have to create some room here.
Good afternoon, everybody.
No, not yet.
Yep.
Yeah, good afternoon. The purpose of this report is to request council's approval for a 2-year extension to development permit 0907. It's for the Oasis Medical commercial building. This building would be the first phase of the proposed development complex at 910, 920 Main Street, which would also include 3 residential towers. The map is attached to this report that shows the site plan of all the building locations. On October 18, 2010, Council approved a package excuse me, of interrelated development applications from Desert Lagoon Holdings, which included the official community plan and zoning amendments, phase development agreement, which locks in the zoning for 10 years, as well as a development permit for the first phase of the medical building. As other buildings in the complex come on stream, they would also need their own individual development permits. The development permit was originally issued on October the 18th, 2010 for an 18-month term, as is our standard practice under the Land Use Procedures Bylaw. When the original term lapsed without the developer applying for and receiving a building permit, the director extended it out for another 6 months in accordance with his delegated powers under the LUP bylaw. This extension took the term out to 24 months, which is the maximum allowable under our bylaw. However, an applicant does have the option under Section 8953 of the Local Government Act of applying to council to vary any time limit set under the LUP bylaw, which can be approved by an affirmative vote of at least 2/3 of the councillors eligible to vote. Before the extended DP was due to expire on October the 18th, 2012, staff advised the developer, Mr. Ron Barsh of the Oasis Development Group, of his option to apply to council for an extension. Mr. Barsh originally requested to appear before council on the 15th, October 15th, but because of an already heavy agenda set for that date, it was mutually agreed that he would make his presentation at council's COW meeting on November 5th. Mr. Barsh's presentation, he expressed confidence in eventually bringing in a positive development to Osoyoos, but requested a 24-month extension to their DP because of delays to their plans caused by the recent real estate recession. Under the options in this report, council grants Desert Lagoon Holdings a further 24-month extension on development DP 0907. Option 2, council grants a shorter or longer extension than 24 months. Option 3 would be the council does not grant any extension. And under implications for the community, the Oasis Medical Commercial Building provide a vitally useful service and will act as a catalyst for other developments in the town. Under the organizational, a longer versus a shorter extension would be easier to administer, and there isn't any implications under the budget, Under environmental, the Oasis development concept accords with smart growth principles in our OCP for the encouraging higher density and mixed-use development in our downtown core. And this report prepared by the Director of Planning and Development Services, his recommendation is that recommended that Council adopt option 1 and grant Desert Lagoon Holdings a further 24-month extension on development permit DP 0907.
Thanks, Mr. Shannon. Council, please. Councillor Ryan. Okay, well, he said Rose. Okay, Councillor Rose. He nodded.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and Councillor Ryan for this. I'd like to make a motion based on option 1, which is the recommended option, and that would be to grant Desert Lagoon Holdings a further 24-month extension on development permit DP 09-07.
Thank you. And Councillor Ryan, that would be the seconder, I take
Yes,
that?
yes, I'll happily second that.
Okay.
I did have a question about it, and that is the effect of this extension on the phase development agreement. Is there any implication of this? I know that there were many timing deadlines and so on, and they were all interlocked, and I don't remember all the details of them. But I wonder if Mr. Shannon has anything he could say to address that question.
I just happen to have the PDA in front of me here, and if I can find what I'm looking for. The PDA fees are stretched out over a period of 10 years, and the phase development agreement is locked in for a 10-year period. Prior to the issuance of a building permit, the developer will be required to pay for the PDA based on a per square foot basis per phase. The first year was $1.20, the second year was $1.32, the third year $1.45. We are entering very shortly into the third year of the phase development agreement. So prior to the issuance of a building permit for the medical building, I would assume that we'd do these calculations based on this dollar per square foot per phase agreement that's registered on title.
So those fees are in abeyance until the building permit is issued, and then they would be
exactly. They're collectible at building
cumulative and
at building permit stage, and they're also cumulative.
I see. Okay, thank you.
So they moved 2 years further out also?
That's correct.
Okay. And that makes sense, yeah.
Well, they run for the 10 years.
Right. And we haven't
It's
started
just that
it
we
yet.
would be 2 years into it.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, anything further? I just speak in favor of this also. You know, it's hard economic times out there, and this is the best thing that we can do economically for the town of Osoyoos and the developer. Yeah, I certainly would support this going forward. Councillor Plant, anything on that? No.
No, nothing for me, actually. I was just looking at that we're following our standard practice here as far as our bylaw, and I also look at it as a positive moving forward, and hoping obviously that this in the next little bit can start to build, and that's what we're looking for, is that growth and the positive feedback that I've been getting from others that look at this being a useful service, and so yeah.
Be great. Maybe we'll get that. Maybe if we get that correction center, they can move that through the Treasury Board in Victoria. Maybe that'll be a bit of a catalyst for us here. Councillor Ryan, were you?
Yes, I just wanted to say further to the motion that clearly we want this to succeed, and we'd like to see it start as soon as possible. But I think this is we've all gone very far through this process and put a lot of energy and time into it, and as well as finances, and this even making this possible precludes having to apply at some future date for another development permit. So I think it's our vote of confidence, and also our wish that it is successful.
Anything further from council? All in favor? Opposed, carried. That has been extended. Thanks, Mr. Shannon. Thank you. Item business number 3, some income statements, quarterly income statements for the town of Osoyoos and the Sun Bowl Arena. You guys are hot chairs here.
Thank you, Mayor Wells. So before council is the September income statements for the town of Osoyoos and Sun Bowl Arena. These income statements are to September 30th and are being presented. The accounts have been reviewed and are accurately reflected in the attached documents. Some of the highlights to these statements: under general operating revenue, taxes, real property levy, projected to be slightly under budget due to some supplementary assessments that we've received. At present time, at $585.11 under budget at the time of this report. Taxes collected from other governments as well, projected to be slightly under budget due to the supplementary assessments, $12,707.67 at the time of this report, and transfers to other governments, meaning the expenditure side of this will also be reduced accordingly. Taxes collected from utilities is projected to be on budget. Cemetery operations is under budget by $950 to $3.15 at the time of this report, which is an improvement from the $1,048.66. This is projected to be on budget. Licenses, permits, and rentals. Recoveries from customers' account is dependent upon the capital projects being completed, like we talked about the Oasis development, which is pending starting. This is under budget by $107,491 at this point in time, which is an improvement from $344,538 that was reported in June. So basically, all the other accounts are projected to be on budget. Solid waste management, the revenues are over budget by $20,764 at the time of this report. This is also projected to be on budget because it will be a slower part for the fourth quarter. Development and building services, revenues are under budget by $10,530 at this time. I'm projecting this one to be under budget by $30,000 just due to the slowdown in time. Expenditures on the opposite side are projected to be under by $20,000 on this. Return on investment, budget surplus at the time of the report of $13,138, and projected surplus is $20,000 at year end. Land and equipment sales, under budget by $3,161 at the time of this report. We're not having any scrap or surplus sales, so it's projected to be under budget by $4,000 at the end of the year. Community services facility revenue, under budget by $7,400 at the time of this report. This is an improvement from $16,900 as reported in June 30th and projected to be on budget. Community services program revenue is over budget by $33,350, which is an improvement from being under $33,000 as of June 30th and projected to have a budget surplus of $10,000 at the year end. Unconditional transfers, conditional transfers, and borrowing and transferring from own funds are all projected to be on budget. From the general operating expenditure side, I've got a mistake here. General government services is actually under budget by $4,500 at the time of this report and projected to be on budget. Protective services, which includes development services, under budget by $58,965,000 at the time of this report and projected to be under budget by $20,000. Transportation services is under budget by $112,985, and I'm being cautious and only having a budget surplus of $30,000 on that. Environmental health, under budget by $21,496 at the time of this report and projected to be on budget. Public health, over budget by $4,098.68 and projected to be on budget. Community services, under budget by $16,771.25, projected to be on budget at year end. Parks and cultural, under budget by $16,904.25 at the time of this report, and the same thing, projected to be on budget. Resort municipality projects, under budget by $21,807 at the time of this report, and likewise projected to be on budget. I am erring on the side of caution, by the way, on the expenditure side, because you never want to report spend or all the surplus. South Okanagan Emergency Preparedness, under budget $2,359 at the time of this report. This projected to be under budget by 2,000 at year end on this one. Transfers of taxes, debts, and reserves projected to be on budget, and capital expenditures in the general fund are projected to be on budget. Sewer fund for revenues are all projected to be within budget. Expenditures, the operating is under budget by $166,499 at the time of this report. I'm projecting this to be under budget by $60,000 at year end. Debt charges and capital expenditures are both within, or to be within budget. Water fund, the water district and water revenues are all projected to be on budget. Expenditures, the water district operating is under budget by $60,696 at the time of this report. I'm projecting this to be under budget by $20,000. Water utility operating under budget by $106,361 at the time of this report, and I'm projecting this one to be under budget by $30,000. Debt charges are projected to be on budget, and capital expenditures, we have our System 9 electrical project that Public Works did for us. That came in under budget by $200,000, so I can report that that's going to be under budget by $200,000.
When these are being projected to be under or are under, do those dollars go into reserves, or do they just stay in the fund?
They would stay in the accumulated surplus for the funds that they represent, be it water fund, sewer fund, or general.
Right.
Unless council makes a resolution to transfer a specific amount to a specific reserve. Okay. So council has that ability if they wish.
Okay. So it's not just sitting in that account. It goes into a designated reserve account.
That's correct. It goes into what's called accumulated surplus.
Okay.
The highlights from the Sun Bowl Arena, it's got a current budget surplus of $132,498, and that's projected to be within budget. That's due to the requisition from the regional district for the operation of the Sun Bowl. So the recommendation for council is to receive the September 30th income statements for the town of Osoyoos and Sun Bowl Arena.
Okay, and that resolution coming from Councillor Plant, Councillor Rhodes. Any further discussion on that? Councillor Ryan.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just wonder, it's comforting to see the ins and outs of both the revenue and expenses, but I'm just wondering, as with the Sun Bowl Arena, you've got a current surplus there that you're projecting of $132,000. Do you have an indication? I was trying to look at the ins and outs and come up with it. Do we have an indication of exactly where we might be at the end in terms of any surplus for the operations of the town of Osoyoos?
Are you meaning for the Sun Bowl Arena?
No, I'm using that as an example and saying you know what that one is. You're saying, oh, that's going to be on budget. I'm just wondering what our bottom line is going to be in terms of all the excluding of obviously the transfers to other governments, but when we take all our revenues and all our expenses as you're projecting them now, what is our bottom line going to look like? I know we started out saying we're going to come out, we're going to spend no more than we take in, but I'm wondering if there's going to be any surplus there that you can project at this time.
For the general fund, it's just a very nominal surplus I'm showing at the end of September at this point in time. As the months tick by, it makes it a lot easier to bring that dollar value closer and more accurate. Water fund, definitely $200,000 surplus in there from the capital expenditure side. From the operating side of it, we're looking at another $50,000 in surplus, so that's $250,000 for the water fund. We're looking at $60,000, I believe it was in the sewer fund. What I can do is next quarterly I can be a little more, I can put a little more detail on there for you. That's not a problem.
Okay.
When you look at the overall, based on the quarterly for the three funds that were presented to you, let me just get to that dollar figure bottom line. It's showing currently a surplus of $151,109.90 in the operational and capital budgets. But because a lot of that's from taxes collected, it sort of skews the aspect of it. So hope I've answered your question.
Yes, yes, thank you. Yeah, that's good.
Anything further? All in favor? That has been received. Thanks, Mr. Zackel. Excuse me, that was the income statements. The next would be any notice of motion. No notice of motion. Reports, general and Sun Bowl requirements till November the 19th. In the following funds amount to the general account of $103,152.50. Sun Bowl accounts in the amount of $6,448.90. And payroll accounts to be received in the amount of $65,133.16. Any council input onto that? Hearing none, they'll be adopted by consensus. Any committee reports from council? No committee reports coming forward. The CAO report, Mr. Romanko, please.
Thank you, Mayor Wells. Just a few of the activities that we've been involved in since in the last 2 weeks. Starting in the corporate services area, we've been busy doing a request for proposal, including one on the Gyro Beach leasing of the lands there, Gyro Beach concession, and also a public washroom RFP. Also working on the victim services program contract. Looking to next year with a meeting with the bylaw contractor and the RCMP to take a look at our enforcement needs for 2013. Also working on updating the business plan and some of our internal action tracking types of activities and software. Finance, busy doing the quarterly reports, bringing them all up to date and making sure we're on budget. Also taking a look at capital planning for the 2013 capital budget. In the community services, working on a lease development with the Art Council, and work continues on developing the Splash Park. Planning and development, certainly one of the things that is a highlight this last couple of weeks was a meeting with our architect on the fire hall plans. We saw a first floor plan that we sent back with a lot of scribbling on it. So it'll be back in 3 or 4 weeks for review again. Public Works, busy kind of closing things down. Trying to fix some sidewalks in our downtown area, trying to level out some of those bricks. Also, the hauling on the Cell 2 sludge bags is underway now, and it's going to be underway for quite a while. Ongoing marina work continues still with the concrete, the stone paving being installed, and it's taking shape quite nicely. The downtown flowers and baskets are all cleaned up for winter, and we're ready with snow removal too, should it happen to come about. Main Street sidewalks from Pioneer Walkway to Harbor Quay are just drying up right now, and nice to see that project come to fruition. It was set in last year's budget, but it has gone through. The street lights are going up on 115th to Golf Course Drive, with hoping for a light up here the next week or so, I'm hoping. And also our spray effluent project pre-construction meeting was taking place today to start that particular project. In terms of a couple of things I've been doing, working on the budget and business planning session with council, dealt with issues relating to the development or the work on Spartan Drive and the marina. Also some meeting with people related to illegal summer use of strata developments for nightly and weekly rentals. Working on the Destination Osoyoos service contract. Followed through on an economic development session with council and the Economic Development Committee, and met with the union and just over a couple matters that a very positive meeting with them in the last week. So that's my report.
Great. Thank you. Just a question, Mr. Romanko. When you mentioned the effluent, was that going back to tender? What was that pre-construction? I didn't.
No, we're following through with the tender on the on the actual pipeline.
Okay.
And we're going to tender the
Okay.
kind of the field portion
Right,
of it.
okay.
Initially, we thought that we would tender the entire project, but it would, True went back and looked at the numbers and said, no, that's a pretty good number.
Okay.
We don't want to take a chance
Okay.
on that one. So they'll be tendering the field portion of it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Motion to receive Ryan Rhodes, all in favor. Thanks for that report, Mr. Romanko. Under Councillor reports, Councillor Plante, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a pretty short council report. I just bringing up a couple of things that Barry had mentioned as well. Our meeting that we had with Economic Development on the 13th, that advisory committee, again, very passionate people. I think it was important for us to sit with them, to understand their vision, to have a little bit of clarity on structure and how we move forward. And I think we came out of that with some positive direction, and so I look forward to continuing on with that group. On the 14th, that's when we started to do our 2013-2015 business planning, and again, one of those where you sit down with all your administrative and directors and come up with the priority list, and then now, you know, where it fits in the next couple of years, and then also where it fits within budget, which is the biggest key of it all. if we have the money to do it, and where that's coming from and how that's going to be. Actually, when we started talking about, when we had this great presentation today about Hospice Society, one of the things that came up for me was the volunteers, and they had about 20 volunteers, I think she had mentioned. And one of the things, as I get into the winter time, I'm a little bit slower. I'm not as busy as I was in the summer, and I have a few extra hours here and there. So one of the things that I've decided to do is head over to the elementary. This week I start my one-on-one reading with the elementary school. So Wednesday is my first day. Very excited to do that. And the other thing is the lunch program, Wednesdays and Thursdays in the afternoon, just to go by. They have the salad bars, again, working with David Parson, who works with those programs. And again, I have an hour here now, an hour there. If you do have it, there are people that are looking for your assistance in many different areas. And one of my passions is always related to kids in our elementary and our school programs. And so being a big kid myself, I thought that would be a good place to put myself for about an hour. And I have a blast. I got a chance to do the lunch program on the last Thursday, and we have some great kids. And now I can really put some, like, I know some of the parents, and I can really put, you know, the kids, the parents, and it's a lot of fun. So I look forward to continuing that through the fall time and into this winter period. So thank you, and that's it for me.
Great. Thanks, Councillor Plante. And again, just on that volunteer, any of you folks out there that are missing your grandkids, or any of you snowbirds that are coming in from Manitoba or something, there's always some great volunteer opportunities and lunch programs and school programs and reading programs. You're more than welcome to join in. You can contact Town Hall or contact the school, and they'll certainly have a good use for your time and become part of the community, or even part of the community that you're visiting. So next up is Councillor Ryan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, I'm just going to mention something that I'm going to be doing tomorrow, and that is attending a workshop on the migrant farm workers. It's being organized in Oliver, and it's at 10 o'clock in the morning for most of the day till about mid-afternoon, lunch included, at the Elks Hall. So starts promptly at 10. If you would like to go, I'm sure they'd welcome you. You can either come. If you want more information, you can call the town or call me. I think it's really important, and I know this is our producer Val is going to have this on the channel 18 tonight. So if you see it tonight and you want to go, especially if you have a farm, if you're an orchardist, a grower, I think it would be really wonderful. They're trying to get all the players to come, elected officials, farmers, workers, people in the community, the police, the the recreation people to sort of deal with this. Some of the issues that emerge during the worker season in the summer. So I'm very excited about that, and I know that the mayor is going too. He's going to have a very front and center role. But anyway, I'll be there listening to him, and hope I'll be a part of his circle there, because he's going to be one of the moderators. The other thing that I want to just mention is that there are a couple of things that are coming up. Romanza this Wednesday has a kind of a Christmas concert, and I want to congratulate the Osoyoos Concert Society for the David Miles concert. He was just a fantastic singer and guitar player, and a good time, I think, was had by all. And I was able as well to attend the opening of the Arts Council, the Arts Center, the Osoyoos Arts Center, and I think it was covered in the paper with a nice picture, but it's a very significant name that they've given to it. And it sort of gives that umbrella effect of it covering many areas of artistic endeavor. And not only did they open and christen the name and put up a nice sign, but also opened a show. And I just want to tell you that if you haven't gone, it's a great place to go. There's wheat weaving, which is one of my favorites, and ceramics and oils and fabrics and mosaics and all sorts of things made from all kinds of materials. And it's a great place for Christmas gifts, and not only Christmas gifts, but think also of services as a Christmas gift. You could maybe get a gift certificate from some service provider in town, someone in one of the hairstylists or one of the other stores and so on, and give that to someone. And it keeps the money at home. I was listening to the radio this morning, and people were talking about how they were so eager to cross over for Black Friday in the United States. And it's too bad we don't have a bridge, because maybe the bridge would get really congested and people wouldn't go as easily. But you can stem that tide by staying at home and picking up not only gifts but also services for those that you love and want to give a gift to. And the only sad thing I can say is that I was following, I mentioned last week, I think, that I had seen Tegan Adams and his mother on the Dragon's Den, and I met his father last night. He dropped off one of the do-goods games that I'm going to use for a Christmas gift, and said that they are relocating to Kelowna. So that was first I heard of that, and I'm sorry to hear that. And that's my report.
Great. Thanks, Councillor Ryan. Councillor Rhodes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm just going to defer my time. I don't have a report today to our mayor, and he can use up my time and Councillor McCordaw's.
Thank you. I was going to go back to this earlier, and I don't mean to put Mr. Romanko on the spot. I want to back up to the extension of the development permit 0907, and in the statement, when we're talking about a phased development agreement, a PDA, no, that's not it. Sorry, the statement was any applicant does have the option under section 895.3 of the Local Government Act of applying to council to vary any time limit set under an LUP bylaw, which can be approved by an affirmative vote of at least 2/3 of councillors eligible to vote. So it needed a 2/3 vote of eligible councillors, and because we have one away today. So my question is that 2/3 of the eligible councillors in attendance?
I would think so, because only those are eligible to vote at that particular point in time.
Okay, so you just need, because I was thinking, gee, if you didn't have the councillors here, then you wouldn't have that 2/3 number. Like 3 is not 2/3.
No.
But
no.
eligible to vote. Okay, yeah. Thank you for clarifying that. So my report is just sort of some of my regular issues: Okanagan Basin Water Board, economic development, sat on with the business plan. Our MP Adamanenko had a town forum at the Sonora Ridge last week. It was well attended. It was attended by Mark Pendergraft from Rural Area A, myself, and Mayor Ron Hovanes from Oliver. And it was a brief statement and then a question and answer period from the audience. Actually, it was very good and very stimulating, and a lot of questions. It seemed to be a successful formula for engaging the public and the community. And I guess the Hospice Wine and Cheese that's coming up this Saturday night, if people are interested, there is a local outlet for tickets, and I'm not going to say that it's at Imperial Books, but normally that's where tickets are sold from, would be Imperial Books. And you know, talking of hospice and that, was unfortunate, but I did attend a funeral for a long time Osoyoos pioneer, Mr. Glenn Tweedy's funeral was last Friday, and yeah, that was you know, you see the good old guys in their exiting. It was a very good send-off for a long-serving member of our community and someone who was instrumental in a lot of the projects, like the golf course and the curling rink and things like that. Glenn was always there jumping in, and that first 9 holes, I think it was his cat that scraped the sagebrush off the hill when the first 9 went in. So yeah, that was good, and the family was great. And I think that's. Oh, sorry. Last Friday, I attended the drought workshop in Kelowna, and it was very, very interesting. It was an invitational workshop where people came together and got into 6- and 7-person teams and planned a real drought scenario. So you were giving what was happening in the community and the level of the drought. And it went into 3 years. So you got a report in April and a report in November. And you planned what you were going to do to survive the drought or notify the people and bring the community in. And it all had budgetary numbers to it. So you spent your money on the budget. And there was a lot of people monitoring it. All your conversations were recorded. It was fairly high tech and high level. And the team that I was on, after the first year, we were in number 1. And going, no, you know, you're sort of going, well, that's pretty good. By the time we finished, we went from number 1, I think, to number 4. And by the next year, we were in last position and had spent all our money. So I don't know. I guess it shows that we need more work in case probably not in case, but when the real drought does show its face. So it was certainly a lot of fun, a lot of different input, and a lot of different people there. So yeah, it was very good. Anyway, that would be my report, so I think we'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Councillor Rhodes, Councillor Plant, all in favor? Good afternoon, folks. It's a rainy, rainy afternoon indeed.